Yeah, we're going to call our meeting to order, right, 6:30. First on the agenda is the approval of our previous minutes of the December 18th. They've all been sent out to everybody. Anybody got any discussions, questions, changes? Nothing? There being no discussion, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. As a vote.
Acknowledge but abstain because I wasn't present.
I'm sorry?
I'm abstaining because I was not present,
Okay.
but acknowledging the present for
Ash, did you get that?
to inform me.
Okay. All right. Next housekeeping agenda item I've got here is I want to let everybody know that Linda, our moderator, adjusted my term of office by 1 year, extended me for 1 year, and extended John for 1 year. And what that does now is it's got an even rotation. 3 members, 2 members, 2 members on a 3-year cycle. So I just wanted everybody to be aware that that could change. Next on the agenda, I have introduction of our incoming town administrator. And if you'd like to come up and introduce yourself, now you get to see the finance committee. Everybody that's in your bill.
Anyway, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm really excited to start working, and especially with all you guys. Glad I get to kind of jump in right at the beginning of the budget process. And thanks, Donna, for really carrying the torch for the first few months into it, and hopefully we can really get everything up to speed quickly. Been trying to do as much as I can to get ready for day one, so that way there's not a lot of a learning curve coming in, and I can just get right into it with pretty much everybody. So thank you for having me. And you guys,
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, guys.
Next on the agenda, I had the report of the Municipal Building Committee by Kurt. I don't see Kurt, so we're going to skip over. Anybody know where he is?
I thought he just walked by. I think he's coming
Did you see him
downstairs
walk
now.
by?
Yeah, he's probably getting his work.
Okay.
There he is.
All right, we'll get him to sit down right away.
Ready for me?
We're ready for you.
Where would you like me to sit?
Somewhere where the camera can see you real good.
I'll sit down here next to this fine gentleman.
All right?
Well, I'll leave the chair behind like it's a 3-seated couch. Because nobody ever sits in that middle seat on the couch.
So for everybody's edification, the Municipal Building Committee has put together a report on some projections over the next many years. Kurt asked if he could come tonight and talk about that report and maybe give us some explanation behind it. Kurt?
So good evening, I'm Kurt Meskis. I am the building commissioner for the town of Charlton, but I am here as the chairman of the Municipal Building Committee. This report was provided to the Board of Selectmen, and I gave a similar synopsis to them last night. I did, however, remember that we have another building that we sometimes forget to talk about, which is 4 Dresser Hill. It's not anywhere on the list. We didn't see any up-and-coming capital projects for that. And that is mostly taken care of by the group that leases the building from us. And I can't remember what their property Activities Council takes care of it. We are, by agreement, still required to take care of capital things like roofing, which has been done. Green Communities gave us money 2 cycles ago for a new boiler. So we put a new boiler in there, but all the other day-to-day expenses are funded by the Activities Council. So we know that there's a lot of projects going on. A lot of these projects have been talked about from time to time, and they keep sort of slipping down the road as other priorities come into play. But we would like to, urge the Board of Selectmen to continue to support the growth of the town by constructing a new public safety building. We think that is the right way to go. We need to continue to develop a facilities maintenance department so that building heads and department heads can do department head stuff, and that we can take care of our assets and have someone get us on a good PM program to take care of all the equipment we have in various buildings. We also need to work with the newly formed Department of Public Works, and their staff and the integration of whatever departments need to fall under that umbrella. With the construction of a new public safety building, we will be able to free up some other buildings, specifically 85 Masonic Home Road, which is currently used by the police, and the selectmen and other boards need to make a determination of what programs we may move into that building. There are a couple of different thoughts that have been had from time to time. One is that maybe a land use division functions move down there, and maybe some archival storage down there, but I think we need to carefully consider splitting municipal operations. Another option would be maybe the senior center, which has been asking for more space for a number of years. A number of years ago, they looked at getting a building in space. That's not come to fruition. Maybe that's the right place to put them, and maybe Chipin would move down there, and that would free up space in this building. But it's beyond the Municipal Buildings Committee charter to make that decision. We'll make recommendations about it and give you thoughts. So that. We want to continue to work with the municipal departments and the Energy Advisory Committee on our Green Communities commitment. We're committed to reduce our energy for the community, for our municipal uses by 20% in the 5-year time frame. We're in about year 3. We've done some projects this year. The 2 projects that have been completed, as you can tell, we have new lighting in this room here. The town hall has been converted to LEDs, and the library was done. And we're also working on a project with the sewer department to put variable frequency drives and update some blowers and fans down there. They're still working with purveyors to get the right mix, because everything has to be approved by Green Communities, and if the payback isn't right, then you can't use that equipment. You have to look at another piece of equipment. Providing terms can be worked out with National Grid and funding obtained in the next round of Green Communities. We'd like to move the town to LED street lighting. We own there's about 600 street lights in town. The town currently owns 500 of them, approximately. But there are some requirements the National Grid wants to put on us as far as insurance and stuff, and that those issues need to be worked out before we sign an agreement with them, and that would be working with the town administrator to do that. And then the Finance Committee and Selectmen, as they heard last night, should look ahead to when the public safety complex is built, what we do with Station 2 and that property, and what we do with the current headquarters building, whether or not we retain that, sell it off, that. Now, the Quonset hut across the street is on leased land, and it is my understanding that the landowner has the right to retain that building or have us remove it at our end of use for that. Then the next page of the report that I gave you is a 1, 2, 3 priority and some numbers. Now, these numbers are not etched in stone. I disclaim them as best guesses. But some of them we do and have done some stuff. Archival storage for our records has been a project we've been working on for a number of years. We embarked in a design for a separate building out here, and the thing came up to $500,000. We knew that was not a rational number. I mean, maybe it's the number what the contractor said it would cost to build, but
It wasn't gonna fit our budget.
it wasn't going to fit our budget. But by freeing up space in this building, if we can do that, maybe we can do something within the building. Digitization of records has been talked about for a number of years. For page options, we have an IT person on staff that could work on that project, but we would need to fund that. And the advantage of digitization is that you can store less, and 2, you can find it. So, town hall office space, there's a litany of things here of town hall office space that we needed to deal with. Other offices, you know, looking ahead to the future, you know, we took over a break room for the technology gentleman. Donna is working with a person in a overgrown closet with windows, you know, was comfortable with one person, is very cramped with two. You know, water superintendent has been asking for space because he has no private space at the sewer plant. Well, can we create one? We haven't found one. So, you know, it's not dire, but it would be a thing. We found a while ago, I didn't mention this last night, but we're sitting in the senior center. The kitchen from the senior center goes out to an old septic tank outside of the building, and when the piping froze up the other year, we found out where it went. Not very far.
Really?
Yep. It was never connected into the municipal sewer system. There's a pump over here
Yeah.
that has everything else connected to it, but this is over here and got overlooked. So at some point in time, we're gonna have to deal with that. And the roof drains out and it comes out of the embankment over there. So when heavy rain, you get a lot of water and icing problems there. We may want to do something with air conditioning the rest of the hallways. A big ask would be whether or not we fire sprinkle the town hall itself. We have a connection available. It has some advantages. It has some costs. It is a complex system because of the way the building is built. We brought forward a plan a number of years ago for additional parking for the town hall. It was a $1.5 million project, and we knew at that time that was not, but we have a conceptual design that if we were able to economically obtain fill from some other projects that were going on in town, you know, we knew what we would do with it, but we couldn't bring that.
I'm assuming this is behind us?
Yes, yes, we own behind us for a couple 100 feet, and we own the grass field, which is the septic system for the senior center, and we own all the way out to Old Mugget. There's a little strip of land, but we own all behind there, but it's complex when drainage comes into that. I already talked about the cemetery, the library roof and gutters. The library paid to put heat melt cables on the edge of the roof because we've always had an icing problem on this front edge. And while we were doing that work, while they were paying to do that work, we found that the gutters are in dire need of repair. But to repair those gutters, they're integral to the roof, so you have to take the first 3 rows of slate off to fix it. We have the number 2 schoolhouse, a nice building, about 1987, early 90s. The Friends of the number 2 schoolhouse put a lot of effort forward to rejuvenate that building, got grants, got all sorts of things. We haven't put any appreciable money into that building since the 90s, and it's getting tired and it's having rot issues, and it needs a historic preservationist to look at it at a cost, of course, and write a program so that we can see how to fix it. Police station roof, building's 30 years old. We're gonna have to do something with that if we're gonna keep it as an asset. It's not leaking right now. I don't know, the chief even said to me it's any leaking. Last round of Green Community grants, we foam insulated the underside of the roof, took care of the icing problems. Of course, we've had a mild winter so far, but and I can tell by going by the building, seeing that the roof has got frost on it, that the insulation's working. We own the Old Town Road salt shed, animal control facility, well, not quite low priority, but number 2 priority would be to put some backup power there and reconfigure that so that the animal control facility could operate in times of power outage. The highway department would have power there in times of power outage. The highway department's covered by a generator. This building's covered, police, all those other places are covered by generators. And then the last little building we have is the old ice house on Fitzgerald Road. We own a building that's about 25 by 30 that was an ice house. And when that subdivision was built, that property was given to the town as open space with that building on it.
How much land?
Couple, maybe 10 acres, not appreciably good land. We have a tenant in there, guy across the street, does minimal maintenance to it. You know, it will need work at some time. There is a lease agreement, but it's a minimal lease just so that, you know, he was using it. And it was like, well, wait a minute, we own that building and you're using this building. We have to formalize what we're doing with it, and that's what happened. So that's what we see. You know, we know there's, you know, and I can see there's a number of department heads here and everybody's got capital requests, but we felt it was important at this time of transition to, and as these big projects, or the big project is there, that these other projects not continue to slip. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, well, appreciate you bringing this forward and add it to the list.
All right.
And take it from there.
All right, thank you, sir.
Did you guys want us to stop for a second? Do you have to open your meeting?
We just opened, and just so you know, Deb messaged me that apparently she had a work schedule change, and it's messed up her week, so she cannot make it. John also left me a message that he is stuck at work, but he's coming as soon as he's out of work. So we'll call our meeting to order at 6:47 p.m.
All right, next on, I had on my agenda, and this is where we can start talking together, okay, is a review of our goals and then a discussion of some parameters for 2021. So just to reiterate, this was adopted by FinCom on August 21st of last year, and our goals are maintain the stabilization fund at 10% of the town's annual income of the previous year, not to include water and sewer. Number 2, review and maintain a 5-year capital plan. And then so we get more requests like this from the municipal building, that's going to become even more important. Number 3, meet with the town's auditor every other year to review the results of the audit. Number 4, meet with the department heads in January to review the department status. Number 5, meet with the select board at the start of the budgeting process. As we're here today. Number 6, meet with the select board on the second Wednesday of April to review the final budget. Complete the annual town operating budget by the first Wednesday of May. Establish an annual workshop with the select board, town administrator, and finance director to work out and revise a 3-year spending plan. Number 9, periodically review the management letter with the finance director. And number 10, review these goals annually. So just so you know, that's where we start. You want a copy of that, Andrew, so you'll know? So that's our goals, and what we look at every so often to make sure that we're in sync with ourselves, okay, and people that come before us. Next up, I thought it was time we had our discussion as our goals, okay, the parameters for the 2021 budget. What are you guys looking for? What are we looking for? And we always know what they're all looking for, okay?
So, my usual assumption slash predication, 20% of the board on this one, so just my personal view. Knowing we just, and I'm still just saying just, because it feels like it was yesterday, had the override, knowing we have this enormous list of capital expenditures that are here and coming, inclusive of, obviously, the public safety building complex, which will be discussed in May, the often rumored renovation to Shepherd Hill, never mind our capital needs at CMS, CES, never mind infrastructure needs with the bridges, culverts, etc. My lean going into this budget season is, with the exception of the dispatcher that the chiefs mentioned to us last night, which I'm okay with, just based upon need, that I want to see a level service budget going in. And I know that's not going to be what a lot of people want to hear, but with the challenges that we're going to face, if we increase our operating budget that much more, we're going to have a huge problem. So one of two options. One, we lower the taxes, or we control the taxation this year, or we simply tax like we normally would, but every single extra dollar goes in a reserve for some type of capital use. But any type of incremental net new position, I'm not gonna be in favor of. I'm gonna be a budget hawk on line items, that anything that's truly not needed, we really have to have a conversation about. I'm okay with backfills for like open positions, because again, I consider that part of level servicing, but at least that's my lean going into it. If someone makes a great case to me, I'm more than happy to listen and change my mind on a case-by-case basis. But walking in, my basic assumption and desire would be level services. So, I'm good.
No, I mean, for the most part, I agree with you. Henry and I have talked, I think we're almost always on the same page as well. I think what we have to keep in mind is all the projects you mentioned, all the requests that are going to come forward, we agree on our goal for stabilization. We're never going to achieve that if we just keep adding on more spending. We can't be going back to the taxpayers asking for more money. The Prop 2.5 override in school is an issue. And we've had this conversation. You know, we were, and I'll face it that way, we were sold a bill of goods. And I think many of us were under the impression that we wouldn't be having this conversation for at least 3 years. Now I'm hearing rumblings that people may want to come back sooner than that, which was not at all in our plan for what we envisioned when we agreed to support that effort. So, you know, I'm gonna, Henry and I have talked, I agree with Henry on virtually every point, and you and I agree too. We have to really be very conservative in our approach to this, or we're not gonna hit our goals.
We had talked, and it's in our minutes of our last meeting, we had come up with some basic premises, which I think I may have forwarded to you. But for everybody else here, I'll you know, number one, no matter what, we don't touch the stabilization fund. Okay, that to us is sacrosanct, and it should only go up and only come down when it's an emergency. Number two, again, these are basic premises. Number two is that the override of 2018 for the schools was for 3 years, and that there'll be no additional school funding this year above state mandated minimums. That's the way we see it. And here's where probably people were more upset with me than with you when you said level services. I first put level funded, okay? And I am beginning to understand, as many people have said to me, okay, level funded could really hurt the town, and I get that. And as I said to Donna, I've since gone back to let's do level services, all right, as a starting point. And again, I said, when I put it on here and we talked about it, it was at least, it's got to be on the table for discussion. Whether we end up there or not, I don't know, but it's at least got to be on the table for discussion. That we carefully review the current 5-year capital expense budget, and as we now have some more numbers to add to that, okay, that's going to become even more critical. That we maintain our $150,000 that we put into OPEB, because we've got to get that number down. Okay, we've been letting it ride for just so long. I would not like to see that cut. That we will have the final draft of the budget completed 2 weeks before the 2020 annual town meeting.
Andrew?
Okay, now, I know that could be a stretch, because we don't know the state number sometimes, we don't know this number. But the reason why, Andrew, that's in there is when a budget's only ready 4 days before town meeting, nobody has a chance to look it over and intelligently discuss it on the floor, okay? And so we felt it was important that we shoot for at least 2 weeks before. So that was one of our premises for this. And that the last one, when we consider spending, we do not consider any potential revenues other than the new growth numbers supplied by the assessor's office. We don't sit here and say, well, you know, that company's going to open up and they're going to spit off this. No, that's not part of the discussion. All we look at for additional revenue is whatever the assessor's office says is available for new growth.
The more conservative we can be, I think the better off we'll be financially. That's really what it comes down to, at least in my opinion.
And everything that Hank's just mentioned is nothing more than sound fiscal policy. So,
I do want to mention, though, that this year you're going to see actual requests from the departments. It has not happened; those have been adjusted. in the past, before they've even gotten to the finance committee. And I want the column to show departmental requests to really be what their request is, because you don't really understand what you don't know.
Yeah, it's a young girl in Springfield. Anybody else got something that they would like to add on our side as far as what we would like to see happen in the budget moving forward? Or did we cover it all at our last meeting with our basic premise? We got our message out there.
I think the message is good. I think, you know, Henry made a point too about everything being on the table. I think it's a good thing, because if you don't have that open-mindedness and that flexibility, you follow the goals, you follow the guidelines, you don't want to stabilization, you want to grow it. You know, we talked about the 2.5 and the 3 years. Level of funding versus level of service. I think taking all that into account, and yes, we move forward as a team, right? And work together and make sure that we're open-minded, so if something does come up and we have to say, hey, guess what? We're going to have to increase this, that's great. Where can we move it from? Where can we take it from? And I think the other points, there may be areas that we can explore. I know that we've attempted this in the past, but it's always worth looking into other ways that we can consolidate, whether it's purchasing or office usage, other ways that we can trim and save. I think we should explore every opportunity.
Yes.
Through the chair, I think your requests are very reasonable. I think we're all on the same page. What I'd like to see happen, I would like to see everything that, all our needs on one page, if you will. Probably take 10 pages, but you follow what I'm saying. And then I would like us to rank them together, you know, prioritize, and then think outside the box as far as what we can do. And I will use a real example of what I'm talking about. I think we need to think of like revenue enhancement ideas. I know Kurt had mentioned 85, was on with the police station. Let's call it what it is, the police station. And I know there's talk about moving town offices over there or whatever, but I think we need to explore all our options, and one may very well be, do we keep it or do we sell it because it's an asset, or do we lease it for 5 years to a company who does the renovations and gives us income, we become a landlord, and that's allowed, so it turns into creating some kind of revenue. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying I'm for one or against the other, but we really need to kind of start thinking outside the box and looking at all our assets and figuring out as a team together, you know, what can we do? You know, what assets do we have to sell? But in my opinion, I hear you, Bill. You know, the townspeople know we have a lot of needs, but we've asked them for a lot too, and they've been very supportive. But we have to show that we're making an effort to say, yeah, Uncle, we understand, because obviously we've been here too, but here's what we're going to do over here as a compromise. So I think some concessions have to be made if we want to keep the buy-in from the residents, and it only seems fair. So.
Yeah, tough decisions have to be made, obviously. We can't print our own money. On that point, I'll lay it out there. I do personally favor selling everything. I'm just a believer that the town wasn't meant to be a landlord. And if we no longer have a use for property, then we should sell the property and then it becomes taxable. Whoever buys it builds on it. That's just my opinion. I'm open to, you know, if someone wanted to come in with a 99-year lease and pay us, I mean, I'm certainly open to all of that, but I'd rather see property we no longer need be sold off, get the revenue, and then have it become recurring tax. Recurring tax.
And through the chair, just mention something about that. And everyone sitting around this table in this room has an idea, right? We all have our knee-jerk reaction or how we feel, and I'm no different. But what I want to use moving forward are data points. Like it just like when someone comes up and justifies, I know that some are better than others, but justifying the need, tell us, why do you need X, Y, and Z? And then same thing, is it better to lease, is it better to sell, is it better to keep? But not because this is how I feel and this is who I am, but here's the facts, here are the data points, using that. The other thing, just as an aside when I'm thinking, in some of the needs, I know like I think the ice house and the #2 schoolhouse, I know we've gotten grants for #2 before. There are historical grants out there, and I think we could still get them. That's just another avenue to look at, and again, we can all brainstorm and just say, okay, this is another way we can fund that. Again, rank it
Right, then you're just taking 40 grand or something off of Kurt's list and makes it easier for everyone.
Right, right.
I think the big conversation, and we mentioned it last night, Henry, that we're going to set up a joint meeting like we did last year with the school committee, as well as the Dudley Board of Selectmen and the Dudley FinCom, to start to have those conversations, because we all know that for all intents and purposes, personnel is really what drives everything when it comes to our budget. And we just need to have honest discussions with the schools, because, I mean, I think we can all sit around and say we absolutely are in favor of them supporting the schools. I think to a person, everyone can say that. However, there's a limit to that, much like there's a limit to supporting the expansion of municipal government. And we're very quickly reaching that line, because I can't break apart the conversation between capital needs versus operating budget, because it's all tax revenue at the end of the day. And it's either we give up the capital needs or we give up the operating budget. Or we just increase taxes just until no one can live in town anymore. But that's the precipice we're on, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think it's that, that crazy of a thing to say. Because if you really added up all the things on that list, including what the schools will eventually come in with their capital project, because I know that they're still pursuing it, I'm ballparking minimum 40 million, 50 million. I mean, that's a staggering number. And I think I'm being even a little conservative on that when you include all the bridges and culverts. You're talking 50 million plus that this town is going to need to pony up in taxes. And that's just not feasible. So we just got to figure out what we're doing. All right, I'll get on my pedestal now.
No, that's all right. You can stay on the soapbox for a while. Donna, next on the agenda was an update from you on budget compilations. Started to get stuff?
I have actually only 2 or 3 that I don't have yet. Debt service I'm working on, meeting with, tomorrow with the treasurer and our financial advisor to try to get some better ideas of rates and what we're gonna need for borrowing for next year. With that in mind, I kind of need to, we had talked a little bit about taking in some of the complex money to get better design work so that we had better numbers for May. I kind of need to know that be formalized and how much are we talking about, so I know how much I'm doing for borrowing. Kind of need that for tomorrow.
That's the next on the agenda.
Okay, and then retirement, insurance retirement information should be coming out towards the end of next week. Unofficially, I still have next week to get through on the health insurance. As you know, I sit on the executive board, and we did have a meeting today with a recommendation not to have a premium increase. So that's going to be presented next week to all the member communities to vote on, and once that's voted on, we know officially, so I could finish that budget. And I think recreation's the only other one I'm missing. I'm just not, they seem to be having some hiccups with who's doing the budget for them. Then I can start working on them. The other one that I kind of really need is for us to iron out the pay equity, so I know what their wages are accurately in the budget.
I guess you guys passed a new calendar, the budget calendar last
Budget
night,
calendar,
or adopted a budget calendar.
And I also, at the last meeting that we had, we talked a little bit about trying to come up with that standardized for capital projects. And I did ask the committee, municipal committee, that's why you have this, is to give me some idea of what you had out there. But what I want to do is I came up with a form with some directions that I wanted to kind of pass around to the FinCom to see if it's okay with them. That I send this out to the departments. This is what I've used in other towns to identify what your need is and doing a 5-year, and in some cases asking for a 10-year plan, so that we can start getting it more standardized and projecting out multiple years as opposed to just knowing.
So what we'll get back is something like Kurt gave us today, a cover letter explaining, and then
You'd
a sheet.
have a sheet explaining for each item,
Yeah.
more in detail, and they can do attachments to it. So I've had departments put specifications to it because they had more information. But it becomes standardized on what everyone's asking, it's not just coming and saying by word of mouth that they went to the selectmen and asked. This form goes out and it has to come back to me, just like the budget, so that there's record of it, and that we can kind of track what got bumped. So the following year, if it doesn't come back in, I can ask, how come this wasn't back on? We skipped over it last year, do you no longer need it? To give you some, but we do have that if you want to make comments on it before I utilize it.
So this will be the topic for another joint meeting somewhere in the near future. Once Donna has this all accumulated, we can put it in something that we can all follow and distribute to everybody.
I finished on the schedule.
You know what I was gonna say? I guess we're meeting every week again after all. We're so close.
You don't stop, really.
Well, isn't that why we elected you?
But, and I don't have a
We're
problem.
appointed, that's why we only have to meet once a month.
I don't have a problem if you want me to go before them and just hand out the list or whatever so that they see it. You don't have to necessarily have a joint meeting.
But just to sit in the same room again like this.
Oh,
say,
absolutely,
Okay,
yeah.
here's our priority list, here's how we'd like to do it.
As part of that list, I mean, what I'd recommend though too is that, because I know we've always had the ask plan, I think we need to start thinking around the funding plan as well. So like a true plan. This is what we do in year 1 or year 2, 3. Here's how we plan on funding it.
Mhm.
At least best guess, whether debt exclusion or operating budget or even free cash. Because I think that's, at least since I've been around, that's something I've seen like a little lacking.
Mhm.
And that, at least for me, and probably for residents as well, that will help map things out.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I noticed is going through, I'll call it the balance sheet, for lack of a better, okay? For instance, there is a stabilization account already set up for vehicles. It's got about $9 grand in it, okay? But if we took all the vehicles, the police chief needs a couple of cars, the fire chief needs a truck every so often, and we just start betting that thing, okay? Everybody would know that's for vehicles, okay? And if you see the fund go down, guess what? Don't ask for a 4th car. Oh, no, you never ask for a 4th car.
That's just like,
Jeez, yes,
He's just so easy to pick on, that's all.
vicious and unprovoked.
I like him.
But if that's what we did, if we said, okay, this is how we're gonna fund these things going down the road, by setting up stabilization accounts, okay, for this expense item.
I'm all in favor of it.
All right.
I mean, there are other things too that you can do for reserves. For example, you can create one for compensated absences, so that when you have somebody that retires or is out for a long period of time, you go to that. Instead of coming to you for a FinCom transfer, you have a fund that you set aside for those compensated absences.
That's a good idea.
So we've got our agenda already almost being built for us, right?
Good.
Once we get those numbers. Right? Next on the agenda, tell you what, where's Jerry? I won't make you sit here. We'll bring you up now. Okay? Have a seat. So you all have a request from the highway superintendent. And Jerry, you want to explain what the heating units are?
Okay, to the best I can. What's happened is the wash bay and the mechanical bay down at the garage have separate heating units. They're basically called makeup air and heating units. They serve 2 functions. One is they heat them bays, and the other section of it is a makeup air unit that when it reaches a certain level of O2 or CO2, whatever, it'll pump out the bad air and put fresh, cold air in it. It's very, the system doesn't agree with me, to put it bluntly. I like the idea of safety and good air to breathe. You should have it. We're required to provide it. So that's kind of what the unit does. They serve the mechanics bay and they serve the wash bay independently. We've been having trouble with them, for one of them in particular, for a year, particularly with the heating system. We had a company down there, Control Point Mechanical. They were having trouble bringing it online. They couldn't understand why they couldn't get it to work right. Well, to shorten up the story, basically what happened is he gave up on the firing unit of it and went into the whole system to see what was causing the failure. What he found was, I'll put it in simple terms, the firebox of the unit had a long split in it. It had, at some point, not necessarily this week or 2 months ago, it split. So the vacuum in the system wouldn't coordinate with the pumps, nothing would work. So we sat down and I said, so what's the answer to this? In my mind, we can pull the firebox out, replace it, move on. Reality struck. He sat and told me that this unit, one, is irreplaceable as far as pulling out the firebox up in the air. It can't be done. Two, if that's the option I wanted to pursue, we could get a company to come in, lower the unit. No, the unit is half the size of this table. It's not a small heater. We can replace, get someone to repair that firebox. But that's where his employment with the town would end. He says, I'll take no liability on the system that has that repair. I doubt you'll find anyone. So in our discussion, I, in the past, have thought about a small unit in the mechanics bay to heat. When they open the door and close them, it took so long to recover the warmth. The guys are in there working. I've seen them in many garages. They have them, just a quick return for heat. Well, that, I got talking to the mechanic from the company and said, what's the odds of, or the chances of putting units in each bay and make them the sole heating source? And he said if it was big enough and independent of that makeup air unit, he says it would have to be, it'd have to be fired with,
Propane or natural gas?
no, it's oil. What a fancy
Kerosene?
word there. No, just regular oil. So, yeah, I lost my train. All right, so basically the discussion went to how can we make that happen? And is it a feasible option? To continue with the makeup air units functioning, and they are still functioning, that part of the unit is still good. My suggestion to you folks is we spend the money to put separate units in each bay. They'll operate on hot water, which we generate anyway with our heating system, so there's no added cost to heat the water, possibly more water, so there would be some, but we're not presenting another source. It'd be not propane. So they would run hot water lines with a circulator between the two to keep them both heated and adequate heat to these areas. I would suggest we keep the units that are in the ceiling now or up in the roof to use the makeup air units still. They're functioning, they can function. And just that will be the replacement. When we discussed, the first thing I talked about was warranty on what we have. We've been there 9 years, and I'm sure you've all thought, well, here we are already with a major failure of something that was just 9 years ago. Well, the factory has had a 1-year warranty, so that wasn't an option. They don't have a record of that type of failure, so there's been no recall or any way that I feel we can go back on it. So with that said, now we're on our own. I can only tell you that I think this is the reasonable way to take care of the situation long-term. We're under the gun right now to keep these 2 units heated sufficient to stop freezing, especially in the wash bay. There's approximately $150,000 to $200,000 worth of pumps that are in there, all full of water. If them freeze, I probably wouldn't even have the nerve to come and sit in front of you to ask for, to repair. That would be a sin to let that happen. So I won't let that happen, but we are under the gun. We have a small electric heater in that unit temporarily. They're talking about 8 degrees tomorrow night. I will monitor to make sure we have a system in the building that monitors the temperature. Anyway, the alarms will go off. We will keep that heated, but time is of the essence, so to speak. I have a company that says they'll do it. Within 2 weeks, they'll have it installed and operating. I can't find another company that's on board to provide that type of quick return on the job. So I'm gonna recommend this company do it at a cost of $36,000 in total.
Slightly less than what you're for.
Well, in just discussion, I asked him for a ballpark, that's the number I gave you yesterday or 2 days ago. He came in at the 36. To meet procurement laws, I'm very aware that other bids are necessary. So I'm here before you asking you to approve this reserve transfer under the condition that I provide other bids. If it's less, that's an apples to apples for what we get. Obviously, I would go with another bid. If it's more, obviously, this would be the one. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. My HVAC background is limited, as you can probably tell.
Do you want to do that as of 236, or if he got something in lower, I could lower it to only the amount
Well,
needed?
first I want to make sure the committee is aware and that Jerry's aware, okay? What we're faced with here is almost like a microcosm of what we're going to be faced with in town, okay? We've got $44,000 in our reserve fund at the moment. Ranking you 36 for this leaves us 8 to get through till June 30th, right? Are we going to make it to June 30th with $8,000 in the reserve fund, right? That's, you know, to me, that's just a basic issue that we've got to deal with, and I want to get the committee's feel, okay? But on the same side, I don't want to not spend $36,000 and lose $400,000 worth of pumps, because I know what can happen if they freeze. Those are that cheap pumps. Anybody got any thoughts?
Should it be split in half, Jerry? As far as doing one section now, one section later?
Well, the wash bay is the priority.
Right.
Absolutely. The mechanical bay, I have 2 mechanics in there working daily. We have a radiant heat system in there right now that's keeping us above water for temperature, so there's no freeze-ups. With eye protection and all that, there's really limited amount of liquids in pipes in that room anyway, but it's more of a reasonable temperature to maintain. I mean, apparently winter isn't coming, but I believe it probably is.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I have guys in there working. I understand what you're saying. I'd be all in for, let's do the one in the wash bay. But now I'm gonna be dealing with pulling guys out of the mechanics bay because it's 50 degrees in there. They gotta work in there. That's straight up. If that's not a priority, I think it's something that needs to be done anyway. You know, the financial part is I understand that, but I'm here without a choice, as far as I'm concerned. You know, you're pointing out a possible choice. I don't think that's the direction that I would prefer or recommend. It's probably a better way. Not to, you know, I understand what you're saying, Keith, but, you know, I walk in and the guys are, you know, it's down to 0 or below, and they walk in there in the morning and it just isn't a reasonable temperature to expect.
Don, is there any other line item in the budget that we could move monies to?
So you can't cross departments until,
No, I'm saying within
Within highway?
Within highway department, is there any?
he has other lines, but I don't know how tight you are on the other lines. I know we talked a little bit about tree care being the problem.
Well, you probably peeped at the least my budget for this coming year. I sat over there listening to the plans, and I'm on board with any plan that will give relief to the taxpayers of this town. But of all years, to really dig in and be budget conscious as 2 boards, I respect that, and I'm happy that it's happening. But this is the year that I've been more aggressive, and I'm gonna be requesting another man. I'll sit across the table from all of you, and I'll try to justify that. So that's all based on, I have increases in my mechanical line item for, you know, I haven't increased that for like 7 or 8 years. Pots have increased daily, it seems like. So I'm up against the wall on my budget, but I'll work with what's given to me. But do I have a line item that I can take money out of, I don't.
You don't?
I don't.
You don't believe, Donna, that there's,
I mean, we haven't even gotten started winter yet, so I mean, you've got snow and ice that's there, but I think you're gonna probably need it before the winter's over.
Just to interject, I have snow and ice where, what's that mean?
In the, you have, that's within the highway budget, there's snow and ice, there's other categories, but
Well, to make everyone aware that typically, and this is no different, December was a real tough year. I'm not far away from asking for that emergency that allows me to overspend the $175,000 that's put in my budget, so I'm not quite sure what you meant by that. I wanted to clarify that you'll be getting a letter soon.
no, but I think what Don is at, how much is in that budget to start with at the?
he has 175,000 to start, but you're not through the winter yet, so
Right.
to obligate anything from that.
As will accompany my budget, you'll see that the average for a winter snow and ice budget is about $325,000.
Yeah.
The numbers bear that out. I did a 10-year survey backed up online.
That's been underfunded for a long time. since I- And we've already actually talked about tree warden line being short as
So
well.
here's my question, because I'm leery about seeing the reserve get down to $4,000, right? And knowing that snow and ice is the one line item in our entire town budget that we're allowed to deficit spend.
For snow and ice.
Only for snow and ice? All right, that killed that idea. I was thinking maybe you could transfer some over to equipment. Can't do it. All right.
Nice try, though.
Yeah.
And you don't have to make necessarily June 30th. And I'm just gonna throw this out. You need to make it to next town meeting. I'm not big on the idea of having to do a third transfer to FinCom for this fiscal year at that town meeting, because now that would have to come probably from stabilization, since you don't have any more free cash.
And that breaks one of our rules, that we don't touch stabilization. But you're saying that if we wanted to replenish before then?
It would need a town.
Oh, it's still gonna be a town meeting.
Has to be a town
It's still gonna
meeting.
be a town meeting. Gotcha. Well, here's our dilemma, guys, right? He's got tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and we've got 44,000 left. And we make it by to the end of to the May town meeting, $4,000.
Or keep in mind too, the last FinCom transfer you did, we expected to have a reimbursement at town meeting
Yeah.
back to your FinCom reserve from the charter if they finish the contract.
Mhm.
That was the agreement on that.
Mhm.
We have not finished that contract that I'm aware of. But that's another source that might be outside of stabilization, so you don't go after stabilization for it.
Mr. Chairman, can we transfer anything over from that 300,000 from the town meeting legal budget?
At a town meeting.
Because that's between
Only
the
a town,
towns.
yeah, that's right.
That's why I was trying to work within.
No, you're right, you're right.
And saying, yeah, okay, if we do this $36,000 and we're gonna hold you to 36 or lower, okay, if you do this. And counting on the cable money, that kind of goes against what one of our premises, that we don't count on money we don't have, okay? So I'm not gonna use that as a rationale in my mind anyway.
Yeah, I think you have to think that you wouldn't have it, but that is another source if the money is there, other than stabilization.
So this, if we vote this, this is gonna put every other department on notice, okay, that there's not going to be any monies left in reserve. That's basically what's gonna happen here tonight.
And the tighter the operational budget becomes, this is what you start seeing, a lot of income variances.
All right, if someone would like to make it, I'll entertain a motion that we grant the highway department $36,000 according to this transfer request.
I'll
make a motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Discussion,
Is there up to 36,000?
up to 36.
Mr. Chair.
With the hope that you're gonna get it down to 32.
If we're,
Yeah, no,
So-
because we're in the discussion phase now, so.
obviously, it's your board's vote, and I understand Jerry's need. And I'm not gonna tell you not to vote, one way or the other, but I guess my question is more along the lines of not knowing yet what other department heads may be coming forward. If there's another emergency, just as bad or worse, we don't know. If you were to vote that before hearing all the department heads, you have no opportunity to prioritize emergencies. There may not be another emergency at Jerry's level, but we don't know. So I guess my question is, do you have to vote that now? Or can you take that and say, okay, we understand the level of this situation. Let's hear the other department heads, so we can now weigh, like, oh my God, is this like a death situation? You know, versus pumps, say, okay, nothing exceeds the level of need for Jerry's pumps. Now we can make that vote knowing that we don't have anything else that's about to hit us in 2 minutes from somebody else. I don't know, you know.
Unless you can find an alternative heating system.
He can't make the repair unless
Right,
he's got.
can't make the repair. Yeah, and understanding what you're saying, Dave, having been involved in manufacturing plants and winter, okay, manufacturing plants and having a plant go down on me, I know the situation. 2 weeks, if he really thinks he can get it up and running in 2, I'm thinking it's going to be more like 3 by the time they get the part, get it down, okay? And winter is coming, okay, 88 degrees. I don't want to wait a week, right?
Oh, I was just asking you to wait tonight, not a week. But,
At the end of
yeah.
the meeting, I think, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I was only suggesting you wait tonight
Yeah.
until you see everything that's before you, and knowing the severity of Jerry's need, there may not be anything else that's more severe that would need that 40,000. And then the decisions are also very easy. But I'm just saying, and you're aware of this, once you commit that 36, if someone comes in and says, we have a problem, and you just realize that as big as important Jerry's issue is, that something was now something more important, you've already allocated that 36 that's off the table.
And
So I was only suggesting, do you
My
have to do it
suggestion-
now, or can you do it tonight, but after you've heard all the,
Well,
You're
this
supposed
is
to-
the only reserved request.
Correct,
we
they're
have.
supposed to come to me and
this is the
get
only
it
one, so
reserved.
there's not another surprise.
No.
Not, this
At least not
was,
this week.
this came in yesterday.
Oh,
We completed the form, but they're supposed to come to me so that I can vet the amounts and the account
okay, all
numbers.
right, okay.
If I could, I've been mulling through my mind about my budget. I scoured through that a lot today. I have a line item for drainage, 19, I believe there's around 19,000 in there. I like the path that these two boards are taking now. It seems like a new path. No disrespect meant saying that. If this is the path we're on, I think I'm required as a department head to make a choice and make a priority choice. In my opinion, I could forego the drainage money and apply it towards this. If we met halfway on it, that would probably take care of it. I'm not talking exact numbers, I need the budget in front of me to make that. But I'm throwing that out there in good faith as a department head. I think that's, and don't mistake this for that's money that would have been wasted. I was really not sure if I wanted to say this, because it could be taken, whoa, look at that.
Yeah, no.
It's arbitrarily, it's not arbitrary that I'm doing this. I'm trying to be a team player in a path that I like what I'm seeing, and I hope it's held to that path, and I'll play that role. If I have a problem with drainage, I know that you folks are here, and we'll find a way through it if I can't do it within my budget somehow. So I would make that offer. I could define the number, even if it was,
Tell you what, can you come up with 16,000 and we come up with 20?
I think I could do that, yes.
So would the maker of our motion amend it to read
Yes.
up to 20,000?
I'd like to amend the motion to read up to $20,000.
And the second? I'm sorry, who was the second? We'll change that to 20?
up to 20,
So that still leaves you 24 in reserve.
still leaves us 24 in
Not a lot,
reserve.
but
Sounds like a
still.
lot now, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot for me.
We're rolling in the dough.
Right.
Hey, who seconded? Who seconded?
Well, in the discussion, Jared and Molly was very, that's right, Molly was very tight, very, very conservative.
I take that as a compliment. I'd like to see, you know, I'm sure that the requests that come in here after tonight for that remaining 16 is gonna be looked at in the same light. I'm not putting that as a responsibility on you folks. I can appreciate what it was gonna do to you. That doesn't mean, you know, the biggest fear I have is don't misunderstand giving up that money out of my drainage account. There's work out there that could be done, but I don't put it on the same level as the need for this improvement for heat. So I think that's the hard decisions. There's always gonna be collateral damage, so to speak, when you start budgeting in this way. And that's what we all have to deal with. So that's how I'll deal with this.
Is there any further discussion?
Thanks, Dave.
There being none, all those in favor of the motion as presented say yes.
Yes.
Say no. There's a vote. Good luck.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
Yep.
I'll stop down there. Remember that we signed the bottom section. So we got that one off the book. Next, I had on our agenda was discussion on public safety building financing. Who would like to start that one off?
I'll oppose that.
Ralph,
Ralph
would love to start.
I'm staying quiet on this one, at least for now.
I'll listen up here.
So I can explain what I'm looking for anyways.
Right.
So, back at town meeting, you did a bond authorization for 28.5, I think was the amount, for the public safety complex. That was some rough numbers from the architect to get to that number. Later on in August, there was a vote to see if the payments on that would be excluded from the levy limit. That failed, but it doesn't take away the bond authorization. You can come back at a later time and ask at any point for the remaining debt to be taken off from the levy limit. However, there was some conversation at one of the selectmen's meetings, and then I brought it to the finance committee about trying to get better numbers in time for May. And that would require some of that bond money to be used for architectural, Rob, is that correct word, architectural plans?
Yeah, design development and construction development documents.
So I'm kind of looking for that dollar amount, and if both committees are on board with us, because this is kind of a new territory.
If I remember correctly, that dollar value was approximately 1.4 million?
1.418 point.
Right, got it.
Pennies. Sure.
1.5.
After 2
1.418.
decimal points, it don't matter. That got us architectural drawings that were biddable.
Correct. That gets us to the ability to bid the project and actually have a company, XYZ Construction, tell us what the project will cost. We are hoping that the 28.5 number comes down not only from the 1.4 that we're going to hopefully do now, but
1 sec, oh, all right.
it'll actually be less than that. So you get a company through bidding process that says, you know what, I could do the project for 24.3. So then we would have not only a better number, but an actual number to go to the citizens.
Right, which is what we had talked about, having a real number. Okay.
Yep, I mean, part of the reason I even supported this was, and I still maintain, I don't believe in just throwing stuff back against the wall until it sticks, unless there's enough change or new information to warrant it. And this time I felt there was a combination of new information that we didn't have before, or let's just say confirmed, plus that combined with, I want to say another funding mechanism, I want to say other possible funding mechanisms, capital campaign fund that Karen's championing, tax options we had discussed, which if combined in any manner could lower the impact on the taxpayer. I thought, to me, that was enough to justify, okay, let's give this one more pass. But along the lines of what Bill's leaning toward, if we come up with, other funding mechanisms to lower the impact to the taxpayer so it's now more affordable, and provide them with more information now, if we have confirmation, if we go this route and fix this, it's gonna cost the same. We have a new way to approach this, that we can build it and it will cost less. If they still say no, I won't bring it back. If they don't want it, it doesn't matter. If they don't want it for any cost, it's not gonna keep them making it.
Right. No, and I think the path that you've laid out is right. But the question now is, well, as a board, we already supported allowing them to go and get this money. I think all Dawn is waiting for is to hear us verbally say, go get some money off the bond issue, right? We supported it, we told her, are you guys supporting that? And just let her know, nobody's gonna make a motion on our side.
Want me to talk a little bit about the capital?
Sure.
All right, so just a quick update. I didn't say much last night because I was waiting for the co-chair to come, and I'll keep it brief tonight. So as you know, at our meeting in December, the Board of Selectmen appointed a capital campaign steering committee, and the funds would benefit the public safety building facility. 6 members came forward, very knowledgeable. We had our first meeting last week. We have another meeting Tuesday. We have an ethics training Thursday, and we really hit the ground running. We're coming up with the solicitation material. If anyone hasn't reached out to you yet, I think they should have. We're trying to gather FAQs. We're putting together, again, the solicitation material, naming opportunities, the whole, these people have done it before. They know what they're doing, have experience as well. And I want to thank Donna in particular and Joanne for helping us, because we have a lot of questions regarding how to set these things up. And, for instance, I'd like to give examples. Donna did confirm that we can set up a restricted, and this is important, a restricted line item? Donation account. So if you write a check, or when you write that check to the town of Charlton and, public safety, capital campaign, whatever we decide to call it, that's what it's going to be used for, because that's what people making a donation want to make sure. They want to make sure it's going to be used for what we're saying, and the selectmen can't transfer it over or anything. So something like that's huge, right? So we are committed, and the other thing, we are committed to raise as much money as possible. We already have verbal commitments, and I say verbal because we don't have the commitment form made for thousands of dollars, and we didn't with just word of mouth. But we will, where is it going with that? Help me. What Donna had said to me was very important for the public to know is whatever that number is, which will be less, that we go out in, I'm assuming May, for the debt exclusion, it'll be less than the original amount. I had asked Donna, I said, well, what if we, and this should happen in our wildest dreams, but what if we were to raise 20 million or more after the fact, after it was authorized at town, after the debt exclusion passed? We have to go out and borrow that amount, or can it be lowered? And I thought we could lower it, but I wanted Donna to say yes, and she said
Yes.
yes. So that's also that's good to know. So just know the group's committed to raise. I do believe, and this is my personal opinion, we haven't set a goal as a committee yet, but I do believe we can raise over $1 million. I'd say what was the contingency built into that?
3 million.
2.5, 3 million?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the number I would go up to, but I still have to get them. It's all about how the committee feels. So, but I think, $2 to $3 million is feasible.
Yeah.
And we're looking, again, nothing's etched in stone. We still need to work out the details, but taking pledges or whatever over a couple of years. So again, we have a lot. We hit the ground running. We're doing things fast and furious, but we should have a press release soon. Hopefully in February, you'll hear all of the details about it. And I know I'm talking all over the place. Did you have any
I think they're looking for a motion to approve the request for 1.4.
Oh.
Well, yeah. That's,
Oh, that. Sorry.
That too. No. What you said was part. Just always remember though, Karen, that
Yeah.
when the building starts here and crosses up here, you're helping to pick up this part of it, right? From here to here is the taxpayer part.
Yeah.
We're gonna spend the first 1.4 million on this building that we're not even sure is gonna pass the debt exclusion.
Which is why.
That's my worry.
Which is why if someone makes a motion, I'm opposing it. Until we get, as far as I'm concerned, town meeting approval to say, yes, go spend the 1.4 million on this proposal that we just voted down, I'm not gonna say yes.
Wait a minute, right? I hate to disagree with you, but
Technically, you do have it.
we already have
You have
that
a
Yeah.
bond
at
authorization.
town meeting.
Based procedurally, I absolutely get it.
Yeah.
I would say to the vast majority of people who either attended town meeting and or voted and who are not as involved as we are in the machinations of debt exclusion, bond issuance, et cetera, I think most people believed, and I would be happily wrong on this, but I believe that most people thought that it was a two-step process, and if one failed, it was done. So I would feel much more comfortable going back in May, or even calling a special town meeting, I don't even care, to be able to say, do you taxpayers want to spend $1.5 million, we're rounding, $1.5 million to get a design that we can put this project out to bid? I know we have authorization legally. I'm not convinced that it's the right thing to do without having another vote so people understand it. And if we had another vote, then I think right then and there, it's a very clear statement, at least one way or another, how people may feel about it. So again, tonight I'm just one of three.
Yeah.
So I am adamantly opposed to just giving the 1.4 million at this point. And I will stop talking.
So one question which I have is it possible to flip it and to not take that step on that phase until after May? Or does it have to be done now?
Well, just remember that the whole reason that we were looking at this option was to, in May, have a legitimate number.
I'm sorry, it would not be in May. There is no way that they said that it could be done before the May election,
Okay.
May election meeting, the May ballot vote.
Right.
It would have to be put off until the November presidential ballot vote.
So we wouldn't have information until November?
You wouldn't have a number, right, an actual pre-qual bidding number until November. It wouldn't.
After May.
Well, that being the case,
After
I've
May.
always been under the
Right,
assumption
right.
we're looking for May.
But now if you wait until May town meeting, will they have enough time because you have to have the presidential election
So here's
information in
part of the
August?
thing though, so, and I agree with Henry, I was thinking May, and we'd have all this and we'd know, and the votes are done, and we know we move forward or we don't. If we're not gonna know until November, at this point, I'd have to say I'm more inclined to go along with Bill's route, saying, in that case, let's go ahead with May, let's have that ballot question, we have time.
But
Is it
understand the
gonna-
ballot question has to go in August to be on for November.
And
No, the ballot question Donnie he's talking about is, are you willing to spend 1.4
Exactly.
to get a number?
Exactly.
That's at town meeting.
Right,
Yes.
Right.
That's a town meeting.
But to get the number that you want to put on the ballot, the ballot
Right.
question for a
In other words, at this
presidential
point,
election has to go in
right,
August.
at this point, I don't wanna rush it and screw it up. I understand time is of the essence. But to me, at this point now, it's not gonna really even know until November. All right, so if it's a couple of months, it's just, we push it back farther and farther and farther. And in my mind, I had envisioned May as it's either gonna pass or fail with the information we have. We're not gonna have the information for people to vote on in May. We're not gonna have the information until November. So there's almost no conversation for us now to have with the taxpayers in May about, hey, other than, do you wanna go ahead? It could be even a non-binding, do you wanna go ahead with this entire process? Not just 1.4, but the 1.4 and the building, knowing that we might be able to lower the tax impact to the taxpayer through the capital campaign funds, and actually have the taxpayer say, you know what, if you can do this, if you can generate a few $1 million from capital campaign fund and through existing tax revenue offsets them so it's a much lower impact on us, yes, we're in favor of it, then we pull the trigger, we spend the 1.4, we move ahead full steam. If they come out in the
But at
polls,
town meeting.
right?
Tell me.
Yeah, or if they come in there and they say, no, even at that amount of money, we don't care if you take 8 million off, we don't care if you take 10 million off, we don't want it, then why would we proceed? I was under the impression, like Henry, that we were gonna have information per May.
Yeah, the only drawback I see to doing it that way, having a referendum, so now you don't get your money until May.
It's 8
Okay.
months, sorry.
Not right.
It's 8 months, that's what they said.
Right.
We were assuming that it was gonna happen in December, so January, they said that they could have the documents ready for August, and there would be another special ballot vote. And we had said, a special ballot vote isn't good, there's not enough people, you know, yes, it was 1,300 people that came out, but why not, if we're gonna not have the numbers till August, why not wait until November, 3 months later, and do
Which
it at the
makes sense.
presidential? So we had asked them if we could have it ready for May, and there was no way that they could have the numbers ready for May's elections in order to get
You're
a
not
ballot
gonna have
vote.
number- What I'm saying is you won't have numbers, if you wait till May, you will not have numbers in time to put on the
Correct.
November
In
election.
November. We've
because
just
they
kicked the
require
can
it
down
at
the road
federal
again
level
with those
to be
6
done
months.
by
So at that point,
August.
you might as well just cut it and do it right one step at a time. And if it means you don't have numbers, or do it with the next spring, and the cost is not 5 million more, the cost is 5 million more, but 5 million more approved by taxpayers, not 5 million more plus Route 1.4 because they said no.
Or we just agree to say 1.4 tonight.
I want to go back up, if I may, through the chair. And remember, the townspeople voted to support the idea. They have to know we're going to spend more than, you have to spend a little bit of money before you can move forward. Again, I'm all for waiting and seeing and what they want, but I interpreted that action as, this is what we want. They just did, that number, 28.5, was too high. So I would like to move forward because to me, it makes sense. They already said what they wanted, they just said,
Right.
hey, that was too high,
We wanna fund it
lower
this
it.
Right,
And
they
I
just
think,
don't wanna
It makes sense as long as it
I
doesn't hit
don't necessarily agree
28.5
with
again.
that. I don't think that there is any empirical evidence that people believe that they were only opposed to the funding mechanism. I
So the
think,
people at town meeting, I specifically said, this is an appropriation of money.
Yeah,
This is where you
absolutely.
appropriate your funds.
yep.
The ballot is only to decide whether you're gonna have it outside or inside the levy limit.
And the vast majority of that people that I spoke to simply said that they disagree with the 28.5 million. There was never a
Were they at
question.
town meeting?
Probably not.
Probably not.
But even to that point though,
But it was still
We're
a
not-
2-to-1 vote at the ballot saying,
but they
we
can
don't
be
want to spend this
opposed to
money.
the 20.5 million, and that's actually what this conversation is about, is to change it so they don't have to foot the bill for 28.5 million, that by using other resources available to us and capital campaign funds, so that we come back to them and hopefully say, okay, now we're not asking you for 20.5 to build this, now we're asking for 20 to build this.
I would just argue that outside of the capital fund, it's still 28.5 million. So whether we're taking it from the operating budget, free cash, or debt exclusion, it's still tax money.
Correct, but one way raises your taxes and one way doesn't.
Yeah, no,
That's a big
yeah,
difference.
no, actually, I absolutely agree with that. Like I said, I mean, look, if people want to move forward, I'm just saying, again, everyone knows I was a huge proponent of the public safety bill. I'm just, on principle, I'm opposed to this, but if two people want to move forward with like FinCom to do it. I'm just saying my vote's no.
well, look at it financially too. Again, at the meeting, I forget what month it was when everyone came forward. One of the reasons I bought into it, because I looked, and we saw the numbers, and it makes sense. I mean, to kick this down the road is not fiscally responsible, in my opinion, because we know it's gonna cost more. And we here, again, we know what the people voted, and we know that this is gonna eventually cost more. We're gonna wind up saving money if we move forward now versus kicking it. It just.
Look what happened to the Worcester Ballpark, okay? They only just broke ground and already they're saying 5% increases in cost.
Again, this is the same argument.
I get your point, okay, that a lot of people may have thought that they were shooting down the whole bill. So I'm against, right, us putting a stop to this because a bunch of people that didn't pay attention to what was going on or didn't do their homework, okay, voted a particular way. So maybe 400 people, maybe I shouldn't put numbers on it, but
we all know that this is good for the town, right? And what we should be doing. And because there's a perception of misunderstanding, I hate to see us kick this thing down another 6 months. Because it's gonna be even longer.
It'll be longer, and it's going to cost more money.
So,
Everything you're saying, I agree with, but I can't move away from the fact it was voted down 2-1 in the ballot. And this is the same argument, not argument, this is the same discussion we had at the selectmen's meeting. So I don't want to be the dead horse, it's just, I mean, I'm not saying we're polling, but I'm just telling you, I am adamantly opposed to this action. But,
yeah, I hear you, I respect you,
So,
but
did
I
you
think
wanna
you're
make-
wrong.
so- Well, that's all fine and well. Nothing's happened unless a motion is made.
Nick,
That's a motion. but-
a couple things of
You guys wanna have a meeting?
kicking it down the road is the time we have, if we pass this 1.4 right now, we got this amount of time to get this thing designed through our committee to get it down as far as we can. We'd like to chop off 5 million or 6 million from the design. And we can do that in this time frame, as opposed to kicking it down the road and watch the escalation of all the material costs go up. And we only got, what's the contract on this land? 5 years?
5, yeah.
We have to give it back to the Masonic Home. So, we can't keep kicking it down the road. We gotta get this thing going. Give us some time to, redesign this, so the cost comes down. And we do our due diligence. We've already done a lot of work on knocking things off, but there's a lot more that can come off. So if we can do that in this time frame.
We're counting on it.
I do, and I did want to add one more fact.
Yep.
That the reality is, if this doesn't move forward now, it's going to make the job of people, raising funds for it very difficult. Even though I want to make it very clear, any monies that are raised will go to whatever is built. So it's not like it's going to go into this black hole, or if something happens, it's not going to get used for what it should be used for. But it will make it much more difficult to go out and get money now, because it just will.
So again, did you
Yes,
want to
I
make the
will.
motion?
Yes. What was your motion? Did you say?
No, we,
Okay, so we,
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it back there.
I would just be careful about arbitrarily throwing a number out there that you're gonna be able to cut $6-7 million off the building. I'm not saying there's room to be cut, but you throw that number out there, we all know the public's gonna grab it and run with it, and that's probably not reality.
That's fine. So tell everybody you rescind that.
So we're looking for a motion to approve the 1.4.
But
okay.
you have Auburn, who just came in at $40 million.
Actually, David, our motion, okay, was not to approve because the voters already approved the money. Our motion on our side was to support Donna going out and finding the bond and releasing the money. So I think if you want to go on record, in actuality, okay, doesn't need your support. It's already been voted on by the voters. We just felt as a FinCom, okay, that we should be on record as saying we agree. Because to me, the thing we gotta be careful about is, so we go out, we borrow this money tomorrow. When do we gotta start paying the interest and some principal, okay? Is that in this year's budget, next year's budget? Where's the cash flow? I'm just much interested in where the cash flow is gonna get before May, okay? As opposed to using the money.
I can tell you, it would not be in this fiscal year.
All right, it's not being this fiscal year. All right, so that makes it a little bit easier to swallow.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing that up, that we don't have to vote. I'm certainly not afraid to take a vote. I'm for this, I'm proud to say that, and I know we think, but if we take a vote, it looks like that was something that we have to do. So I don't think we should, but everyone should
No, we'll
know.
just say Donna had our support.
I would like
Two
this-
out of three, so.
All right, I would like this board to go on record, though.
But we don't have, can we?
Well, we just did.
Three people
She
showed
said
up.
she had 2 out of 3, so.
All right, so you're in favor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we want to vote?
We're okay to move forward.
She already has the approval, we're just saying that we support it.
I think this is gonna come back and bite all of us. This is a bad, okay, no, I'm done, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But the bottom line is, we could sit here and Kira's could sit silent, she stood it up and get it, so.
If you don't move off the starting line, you're not getting anywhere.
All right, I have a few more items left on our agenda. a request from our interim town administrator to get our material in for the annual town report, because he says it takes a lot of work, okay?
That's for that Ford Cruiser comment, man, just saying. Turnabout's fair play.
So here's the copy. It is in the Dropbox folder if you want to read it, and we'll talk at our next meeting about who's going to actually put it together. There was talk, so there is a rule in town that no member of the finance committee can be a member of any other committee or in town. But we're not precluded from having a liaison with any other committee. And John has volunteered to be our liaison with your campaign committee. So he will attend your meetings and report back to us what's going on, right?
So, question for you, if I may.
Yes.
So is that a rule that you guys set for yourselves?
No, it's in the
It's
bylaws.
just the bylaws, so we would have to have a bylaw change to adjust that. 'Cause I think down the road, it may be worth looking into, just tweaking it a little bit so that FinCom members could actually participate on another committee as long as there was no conflict. Like you're not now going to be taking on a role on another committee that's approving money that you can be saying to yourself to vote
And
on.
that's probably why that was put in there to start with.
Right, but if you put
And
that.
quite honestly, don't change that rule.
Yeah, most towns have that.
No.
I like that rule.
But you should still not be able to do that, but there may be cases where you might be on a committee that has nothing to do with anything financial.
And
And it precludes you from doing that, even though it has nothing to do with money, doesn't do with ever saying anything to FinCom, but you can't do that either.
And at the state level, it's legal.
I'm just saying.
Because what happens is, if you do that, that's.
Non-monetary
To be quite
related.
honest with you,
Yeah, I know.
Karen, I use that excuse, I'm sorry, I'm on FinCom, okay? And if
Oh.
you take that away from me, I'm
never-
very
Thank you for
upset.
being
All right?
honest.
All right.
You have to sell.
So the last.
Guess what board I'm joining next?
The last item I have on my agenda is a discussion on our committee about what number we want to give to Donna to put in next year's budget for our reserve account. All right, we started the year with $120,000. We're down to about $8,000 with 5 months left to go.
Added 75 to that.
And we added 75, so we added 75, okay, you're right, at town meeting, special town meeting, so 200,000. Is that the right number for, or should we start at 200? Start at 200, and because that's basically what we're gonna have spent today, right? So I'll entertain a motion that we instruct Donna to insert $200,000 into the Finance Committee's reserve fund account. So I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. As a vote. All right, Donna, we're going to put 200 in it.
Keith, was that Keith and then
Yeah.
John?
Yep.
I can't see faces today.
And that's all I have on my agenda. You got anything on yours you want to talk about?
No, it's exciting. Andrew's starting in a couple of weeks, officially.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry I didn't speak up anymore.
Did we give you
No,
good
it's second
starting?
for you, trust me.
Yeah, I figured. I didn't want to
Did we give you a good
contract.
starting point, Andrew?
Yes, I'll wrap with that.
Did we give you a good starting point?
Looking forward.
Anybody out there have something that they wanted to talk about with us before I close?
Yeah,
Yes, not?
I got something. I sat and listened to the discussion on the public safety building. I'm not gonna play my cards how I feel either way on the project itself. I just want to bring up a little historical fact. Back in 2008, the highway garage was voted on at a federal election, President Obama's election, actually. There were near 7,000 voters. If you people want to know how the town of Charlton feels about this building, have it that day. When he said it, I was thrilled. I just want to point out, we won our debt exclusion at that election. I'm not sure of the number, but it was like 300 votes. That's how close it was. But I was proud of that fact that 7,000 people made that decision, not 80 or 90 people at a town meeting. We're not trying to guess what people's thoughts are. I don't take that well when I watch two boards sit there and think they know what that the people weren't educated enough. I just want to make that point.
Yeah.
They were educated. Trust me, I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of people out there. They knew what they were doing when they said no to that project. I don't like that guessing that goes on for the town to have to take, that you know better than they do. I think that's the wrong approach. I think it ought to be adjusted. But I do just want to point out the fact that 7,000 people voted to allow the highway garage to be built. I hope that that's the path that these boards take and drive to. If it takes 1.4 million now to make that happen, in my eyes, it would be worth that. Because this is not going away. Let's address it head on and let 7,000 or 8,000 people vote how they feel. And let's not second guess their vote when it's over. That's all I can ask.
Thank you for the comment, I appreciate it. Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I have a motion, do I have a second? Second. I have a second, all those in favor say aye, say yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.